Twitter and other areas. But let's listen in again as Police Chief Art Acevedo updates us.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for your patience. First and foremost, I want to just say, right off the bat, that no officer has died, and folks are trying to start those rumors, so I want to say that right off the bat. Before I make some specific comments on what occurred tonight, Mayor Turner and the council members here, Mayor Turner will open up the briefing. Mayor?
Let me just start off by saying that this has been a tough day for our city, but I certainly want to encourage all Houstonians to pray for all of our police officers who are at Memorial Hermann. This is one of the finest hospitals you will find anywhere in the country, and they are being attended to with the best medical care. So pray for all of our police officers. I will tell you, one of them is either will be discharged if it has not already been. That's good news. And for the others who will be remaining here at the hospital, pray for them, and pray for their families. Pray for their spouses, their children, their parents, all of their loved ones, and there are many loved ones that are on the road, en route here. So pray for those who will be flying from outside of the state, and pray for those who are on the road driving in. That's important. Let me also thank EMS and the fire department for the work that they did in getting all of them here to this hospital in very quick time. Let me tell you, let me commend EMS, Chief Pena, the fire department, all of them who responded to our police officers in their moment of need and got them here in very fast time so that they could be attended to. I want to thank the Houston Police Department and others for clearing the roadway, for clearing the freeway, so that they could bring them, get them here so they could get the care that they desperately needed in a very quick fashion. And then I just want to thank all of Houston for just offering their prayers. Let me just say this. Our job is to keep people safe in our city. And I want to be very clear, is that, we do not tolerate any sort of activity, whether it's drug activity, drug trafficking, whether it's whatever it may be. We don't tolerate it in our city. That we want to work night and day to make sure that our city remains safe. We don't want anyone injured in any manner, whether it's a person that's on the street, or whether it's a police officer, whether it's a firefighter, a first responder, whoever it might be. And so I'm just very grateful and thankful for everyone who's come together in this moment. I want to thank the members of City Council who are here standing as well tonight, who have left their offices or their homes to be here. I want to say a special thanks to each one of the City Council members. I want to say a special thanks for Tip and Fatita, who is here to stand and to be at this hospital, continuing to pray for all the police officers. And I want to thank all of you for the coverage that you have provided. But and the medical staff. I really want to thank the medical staff here at Hermann Memorial. They are just incredible, and they are giving some fantastic care to these police officers. So, Chief, let me turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for always, one of the calls you never want to get as a chief is you've had officers shot, and one of the calls you never want to make to a mayor, to a family member, is that officers have been hurt. So I'm going to go over the incident real quick, and we've had a second officer involved shooting in Northside, and I don't know if you guys want to hear about that or not, but I want to focus initially on this first shooting. So at about 4:15 p.m., a Narcotics Group 15 from the Houston Police Department, who was working an investigation involving the sales of narcotics out of a residence in the 7800 block of Hardy Street, responded to Hardy Street as a team of about a dozen narcotics officers and about a half a dozen patrol officers from the East Side Division. The patrol officers were there to provide support and obviously to provide the uniform presence for this operation. Shortly before 5 o'clock, the narcotics officers attempted to serve a search warrant on the location at 7800 Hardy Street. They announced themselves as Houston police officers while simultaneously breaching the front door of the residence, and while the police car, the marked police unit with uniformed members as well as the police officers with the police garb, also hit the siren to make sure everybody can and hit the lights so they knew that police officers were there. Immediately upon breaching the door, the officers came under fire from one or two suspects inside the house. We're not sure how many of the suspects fired this time. As you can imagine, it was a pretty chaotic scene over there, and the investigation's unfolding. As a result of the exchange of gunfire between our officers and one or two suspects, we have 5 officers injured. 4 were struck by gunfire. 2 officers are currently in surgery. They're in surgery for gunfire sustained, and they are in critical but stable condition. And we're hopeful that with the prayers of this community that they will recover. But again, they are in critical condition but stable. Their families are here. Some of the families are in transit, but 2 officers are currently in surgery. 2 other officers were shot, and they will remain hospitalized for observation for at least a 24-hour period. They were struck by gunfire, but they are basically ambulatory, and they're expected to make a full recovery. 1 officer sustained an injury during the gun battle. It's important to note that once the officers, the initial indications are once the officers breached the door and the gunfire began from the suspects. One of the suspects actually retreated momentarily to the back of the room, and then that suspect came back and again engaged the officers and gunfire. I have not been able to determine how many of our officers are shot, have returned fire. That's part of the ongoing investigation. As you can imagine, we needed to work the scene from a tactical perspective. SWAT responded along with other allied agencies. We established a pretty hard perimeter, and once you had 5 officers injured, 4 shot, and 5 believed to be shot at the time, we had to slow down and actually turn it into a very methodical, tactical operation. The SWAT operators, upon taking control of the scene, utilized 2 different robots to go into the residence and to actually help search the residence. 2 suspects were struck by return gunfire by members of the Houston Police Department. Those suspects, once we were able to render the scene safe by SWAT, were pronounced deceased at the scene from the return gunfire from the officers. I want to personally thank the Houston Fire Department. They're phenomenal partners. The care and the concern and the love that they showed and displayed for our officers and their families was second to none. Steve Pena runs a world-class organization, and I also personally want to thank, on behalf of all the men and women of the Houston Police Department, the staff that you see behind it. We are so blessed to live in a city with medical facilities that people from around the world that of well means come here because they know that these hospitals, this institution of hospitals, are really second to none. I really believe as a result of their excellence, our officers can be in better hands. I also want to thank LifeFlight, and I'll call Chief Pena here in a minute to update you on who was how many were transported by LifeFlight and by ground. And I also want to thank our members of the Houston Police Department. It's important to note that this investigation began, and I was talking to the council members and Stardig and Gallegos and Dwight Boykins and the mayor that they receive emails. We receive emails. We receive complaints. Our eyes and ears are truly the community that we serve. We could not do what we do without the community we serve. This all began because a neighbor had the courage to say, we're not going to put up. We think that they're dealing dope out of this house. And we don't just ignore that. We immediately passed that on to our narcotics division that began this investigation, was able to actually determine that narcotics dealing, street-level narcotics dealing, black tar heroin was being dealt out of this, and we know the poison that's killing so many kids, not only here in Houston, but around the country. They immediately started an investigation, and that's what they were there tonight. They were there to execute a search warrant, and unfortunately, as we know, ironically, the mayor and I had our press conference today, and Tillman Fertitta, the chairman of the Police Foundation, Houston Police Foundation, we were celebrating two things today. One, at the Houston Police Academy, we're celebrating the groundbreakings right behind me there. He's being shy. The groundbreaking of a tactical village that, again, is the result of a $10 million investment by the people of this community in their police department that tells you the kind of support we have. And two, we were there to celebrate the fact that despite the fact that this police department in 2019 has 300 fewer officers than we had 20 years ago, about 500,000 more people, our men and women, we said it then and we'll say it again, they don't make excuses, they make a difference. And what you saw today with these officers showing that they have the courage, the guts, and the perseverance to do what they need to do to keep this community safe. And so with that, I'll come back and answer questions of the mayor, more questions on the actual incident, and do some Spanish. But I'd like Chief Pena, who's not only a colleague, he's a dear friend, to come up and talk a little bit about the outstanding work of his men and women.